Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 6, 2009, the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Ellison, is recognized for 60 minutes as a designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Keith Ellison, and I am here once again, to help represent the progressive message of the Progressive Caucus. We're really, really pleased to be joined tonight with an absolutely stellar leader in our great country, none other than the chairwoman of the Progressive Caucus, the co-chairperson, Lynn Woolsey from California. And let me yield a little bit of time to the honorable chairwoman, because when she's on the floor representing our great caucus in this great body, in this great country, it's always fun to listen to what she shares with us. And she actually is going to share a little bit about a letter that the Progressive Caucus wrote, and among other things. And I'm just going to yield the floor to Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey for a moment so she can get us started off right. Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey, how are you today? Chairwoman, thank you for yielding back. I want to say and just agree with you that investing in our young people going to Head Start is one of the very best investments that any society can make. And you can get conservative economists, you can get liberal economists, any kind of economists you want. They can tell you that the biggest bang for the buck is investing in early childhood education, programs like Head Start. We propose, you're right to point out as well, Madam Chair, that we have about 90% of the House and Senate bills overlapping. But there's that 10% that we're here to advocate about, and I think it's important that the American people know that the Progressive Caucus is going to be in there fighting for an inclusive vision which embraces all Americans. And so I want to thank you and Chairman Raul Grijalva for writing that letter. That's the kind of leadership that the American people expect from you. And I just want to also add that education is a critical point. The House bill allocated $2.1 billion for funding for programs to prepare children, and that was cut to about $1 billion in the Senate side. But let me just also talk about higher education. The House voted to provide about $6 billion for higher education, while the Senate compromise ultimately eliminated $3.5 billion for higher education facility modernization and purchase of instructional equipment. Right now, and as you know, Madam Chair, when we have a recession like the kind we're in right now, what do people do as they try to figure out what to do as they've been unemployed? They often go to school to try to upgrade their skills. Right. And the opportunity to do this, the investment in that has been not as fully there as it could be as it is in the House version. So we want folks to know that they can do something about this. The conferees are confereeing, and this is something that Americans don't have to sit back. They say it's not over yet. It's not done yet. This cake is still baking, so it's a time to try to be back involved. I yield back.
Well, and now Keith,
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mark Zandi, who was an advisor to John McCain, a Republican, said that the way to really stimulate the economy is to put it in certain areas and not so much in others. And if you look on this chart right here, Zandi's estimates for a multiplier effect for various policy proposals, what you find is that spending money for states has a pretty good stimulative effect. Right down here, revenue transfers to state governments. For every dollar we put into that will generate $1.36. That's an important expenditure right there that we could use to really stimulate the economy. This will bring back good benefits to the economy. So for the Senate to shortchange us by $40 billion is a mistake. Let me also say too that these are good jobs. We're talking about cops, firefighters. We're talking about people who are really out there filling potholes, doing important jobs, making sure that people are getting workforce training and development. These are critical functions. And you know what? I read, Madam Chair, that if you were to add up all of the state budget deficits that are current right now, it would amount to about $350 billion. Right. I know my own state. of Minnesota has about a $5 billion deficit. I know California, your state, is in need.
Yes.
And so the thing is that what we're trying to do is make sure that we don't have layoffs at the state, that we don't have service cuts at the state, and that we're continuing to bolster and pump our economy up. So I'm glad you brought the aid to states out, because it's very critical, very important. And I might add that temporary increase in food stamps has a very stimulative effect. For every $1, $1.73 is going to come back. Increasing infrastructure, for every $1.59 comes back. Now, I might add, Madam Chair, that certain things do not have a very stimulative effect. Things that don't really do much good in the situation we're in right now would be making income tax that are expiring in 2010 permanent. That would not help.
No.
That has a very minimal stimulative effect. Making these kind of things won't help, but making expiring dividend and capital gains tax cuts permanent has less. We put $1 in, we get less than $1 out. These kind of things are important to bear in mind as we look at this stimulus proposal. Thank you. Let me go back to you. You know, Madam Chairwoman, it's so important that you shared that personal experience, because there might be people watching this broadcast right now thinking, man, am I just like a bad luck accident? Am I just like somebody who can't make it? Is it my fault that I'm unemployed? Is it my fault that something happened? We had illness, mental illness in the family through no fault of their own. They're feeling like, wow, it's not working for me. So when you stand up here on this House floor as a member of Congress saying, I've been there myself, it gives them great courage. And it makes them feel like there is a tomorrow. And it makes them feel like there's some people in this body who care and who understand what they're going through. Because, I got charts and graphs up here with numbers, and you're choking on the word trillion, and of course it's all ridiculous,
No.
but the point is that it is people who we're here fighting for.
Right.
That's why the Progressive Caucus is formed. That's why we exist, because the story that you just told, there are unfortunately too many stories like that being told, and there's got to be somebody in this body who will stand up for folks who are fighting, who are trying to make it, who are trying to take care of those 3 kids. I mean, I am so proud of our nation that there was at one time in our history when we understood that welfare wasn't anything to be ashamed of. It was what we did for our neighbors, because we ourselves could be in a tough situation. It was saying we're going to step up for our neighbors. We're not going to let them go without. We're going to, because we all know that we're one accident, one medical problem, one job loss away from being in that situation ourselves. So this is what a caring nation does.
Right.
It says that, yeah, you may be living that middle class dream, but you don't know what's going to happen to you next year, and we're here for you because we're all Americans and we care about each other. This is the kind of thing Progressive Caucus stands for, and it's why I'm so proud that you are our chairperson.